What's up, addicts? Welcome to the Fantasy Addiction Network. In this video, we are breaking down wide receiver Laviska Shenault prior to the draft, which is only a few days away. We're breaking down players after the draft as well, so make sure you hit that like and subscribe button for more content, and let's get going. Before we get started, check out the link in the description. We are offering a free tail kickoff special for our fan companion tool. You get access all the way up into the kickoff of the NFL season for absolutely free, so make sure you check out that link. All right, Laviska Shenault, wide receiver out of Colorado, getting a decent amount of buzz, especially due to his injury history. Now, in the beginning of the 2019 season, he was recovering from both a turf toe and a torn labrum surgery, and then by the end of 2019, after the NFL Combine, he had surgery on his upper abdominal muscles. So he's now had 3 surgeries in the span of a year. But you can tell a story as to why they were kind of compensating injuries. If he wasn't completely recovered from his toe, maybe he wasn't planting as much, and if he was trying to compensate for his shoulder, maybe he was taking more hits in the abdominal area that led to the injury there. Sometimes injuries can kind of tell a tale one another, but it's definitely going to impact the way that teams view him. Got reports today that medical doctors expect him to be 100% healthy by the time of the NFL draft. There's no real way of proving that right now without your traditional meetings that we would typically see around this time of year with teams, obviously with everyone practicing social distancing. It's really making prospects like Laviska Shenault much harder to read. And as I mentioned before, he went through the combine and did some of the drills with that injury that he needed to have surgery on. So that's going to hurt his 40-yard dash time. I don't know exactly how fast it would be without that surgery, but I mean, wouldn't be that unreasonable to take off 1/10 of a point. That would have been a much better profile for someone running at 6'1", 227 pounds. There's a reason that A.J. Brown is a close comparable for him. He's a big receiver and he plays all over the field. He can play in the slot, he can play as the X, as the Z, and they've also even used him as a running back. So he definitely has that ability to be like a gadget type guy, like an A.J. Brown, like a Deebo Samuel. And if he goes to a team that's creative enough, I think that he could be a pretty immediate fantasy producer, especially if he goes to a team that is in need of a receiver with his ability. The question then becomes, can he stay healthy? And more importantly, will teams view his recent injury history as a problem? And we'll be able to see that pretty quickly in about a week, because if he goes in the first round, obviously teams don't fear his injury history at all. If he goes on the second day, then probably that hurt his value a little bit, because when you look at his production profile, only 9 games in his sophomore season, still had 86 receptions on 110 targets and 1,000 yards. It's ridiculous. Last year only played 11 games, 56 targets, 764 yards, so it went down a little bit. Also isn't like a massive yards per reception guy. Again, you have to remember, playing in the Pac-12, different competition as well. So there's a lot of variables that go into what he's done, but he has a very well-rounded skill set. There's a lot of guys that are kind of one-trick ponies this year. And I shouldn't say that. That's a little misleading, but his range of skills, Laviska Shenault has a wider range of skills of what he can do on the football field than a lot of the players that are being drafted ahead of him. The question really does then just become, what do NFL teams think about him? Because we know, whether or not it's fair, when receivers get drafted later, they don't get the same amount of reps. They don't get the same amount of leniency. If you draft a player in the first round and you run the same rep 10 times, and 5 times he gets it right and 5 times he makes a mistake, a coach is much more likely to pardon the 5 mistakes and say he'll get it over time. Whereas if you draft a guy in like 5th, 6th round, you run the same rep 5 times and he messes up once, gives you a lot more credence to say, that's why we drafted him in the 5th round. It's a weird psychology thing. Not every team is subject to this. So that's why, obviously, landing spot is going to be huge for a guy like Laviska Shenault. But I really like him as a prospect. Obviously, his injury history is concerning. But I think because of that, you're going to be able to get him at a decent value. And if he could hit his ceiling and be someone like A.J. Brown, it could be a massive value in the 2nd round. So right now, that's where I have him projected to go, right around early to mid 2nd round in most drafts. And I do think that that will probably stay the same unless he drops to like the 5th or 6th round in the NFL draft. I don't think it would go that far. A lot of mocks have him going in the 2nd round of the NFL draft right now, and that seems about right to me. We'll see, though. Again, lots of interesting nuances right now because of the pandemic. There's a lot of teams that are going to be scared off of players like Laviska Shenault because of that injury history and not actually having any ability to see him work out post-surgery, see how he's recovered. It's going to be difficult. So we'll see how this ends up going down in less than a week. So I'm pretty excited for it. But thank you guys so much for watching. Appreciate it. And we'll see you in the next video.